adjourn the June 25th, 2024 Columbia Borough Council meeting. Could I have a roll call, please?
Council President Zink.
Here.
Councilperson Kaufman.
Here.
Councilperson Stahl.
Here.
Councilperson Fisher. Here. Councilperson Price.
Here.
Councilperson Murphy.
Here.
Councilperson Brigard.
Here.
Mayor Lutz.
Here.
All right. Did anyone want to offer an invocation? All right. If you would like, please rise for a moment of silence. Councilperson Kaufman, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcement of executive sessions on June 11th, 2024. Council held an executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Are there any additions, deletions, or reorganization of the agenda? I'm not aware of anything this evening. Does anyone have anything? No? All right, could I have a motion to approve the agenda as published?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to approve the agenda as published. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, citizen comment, non-agenda items only. We have a sign up, Frank Patrick. I'll get you, Paul.
Sorry, you hear that?
No, that's okay. You were signed up. I didn't realize.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Good evening. At the end of the last meeting we had here, council had asked of our manager about certain properties that was losing so much money. I didn't catch what properties that was. Does anybody?
The old,
That's the 137 Front Street,
The
right?
old
The
firehouse.
firehouse.
Just one?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right. I missed that. The other issue I got is parking out front. Front of the municipal building and on Third Street, parking on Third Street side. Keep in mind, there's no meters out front. There's no meters on Third Street, but there is a sign there that says official business. Now, I have a good friend that parked there past Saturday, went in the market house, and when he came out, he's an elderly gentleman on a fixed income, got a $20 ticket. Now, don't we want people to use these spaces over the weekend, like for the market house? Why all of a sudden is that happening? Is there a new meter made, or it's probably more of a police deal, but
that's been happening. If they're parked in the official business only spot, they will get,
keep in mind, this is a Saturday and a Sunday,
right.
and we're gonna keep them spaces open and not give them to nobody.
We don't take it on Sunday.
We don't take it on Sundays.
What about Saturday? What official business takes place on a Saturday?
Well, people do come to the police department on Saturdays. And also there are times where, if we move the police vehicles out of the lot, they'll park on the side and in the front. We have to move them out of Sadie Lane. They get parked around the building.
Okay, I know you park there, I park there a lot, and we went in the market house and all. And I know I parked there for, it must be years, never got a ticket.
Frank, I got a ticket for parking there. Honest, I got a ticket for parking there.
Did you pay it?
No, I didn't, but I got a ticket for parking there.
Okay, thank you.
So it's just not you or anybody
So,
else. I don't-
so those spaces out front here and over on Third Street will be kept vacant.
If there's a police issue
Yeah, I
and other departments come in, they need that area to park.
Right.
I thought maybe they would a lot over here.
But they shouldn't be using a lot because that's garbage day.
Yeah. Okay, good point. All right, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone that did not sign up that would like to speak? Paul?
Okay, Paul Hines, 204 Union Street, Columbia. I'm here to thank the Borough Council, first of all, for the CB grant funding last year for Union Street, 200 block. I think it went very well. I think seeing Jake here, I think we talk daily. I think it went very well and very good job. And the contractor, Construction Master Services, they did a job in the borough for years. They did a good job on this one, and the residents, a majority are happy with them. In fact, we had one case that a lady had a broken arm. She had an accident in her yard. And so a day later, somebody was delivering flowers to her. And they had to park in the St. Pete stop there, it's Union Street. And she said, how am I going to get up here to the house? And the foreman of the job, he delivered the flowers to the lady. And whenever residents had, say, complaints or reports, whatever, didn't see Jake, Trevor, he sort of satisfied the needs of the residents. So it's a very well job, and I just want to thank Jake for keeping me informed daily on what's going on, and also Trevor, this foreman for Special Masters, but so the residents were sort of coming to me, I could be a former council person, so I could sort of answer their questions on the various part of what was going on. And it's a couple of things that I think there's going to be a punch list like I think Jake did as well already. But that's my job. But overall, there's very smooth job, and like I said, they cooperated with the residents very well. And overall, we didn't see them goof off or anything like that. They worked, and they really showed quality workmanship. So they have really jobs ready for the borough. Yeah, it's always the low bid, but hopefully they'll come in for more of them. They did an excellent job. The other thing I'm here, I was happy today. My wife and I were washing down our front porch and stuff, pressure washing. And we saw the two code enforcement people out walking. We were outside talking to them for a while. I think it's a good sign that the code enforcement people do get out and walk. Because there's a lot of violations, weeds and garbage and that stuff that can be, I think, help this borough clean it up. And again, I was really glad to see that. But again, the Union Street job is, I think, very well done. And they know that we call it the racetrack sometimes. They take off from Union and up they go to Third. And maybe eventually you'll need a stop sign or something put somewhere on that second Union. That's for the future. So again, thank you. And last thing, I just want to commend all your council people for doing the job you're doing. And I don't always agree with your decisions, but one thing I do agree with, I respect you for sitting up there. Because I know what it's like. I was there for 8 years. And sometimes it's that thankless job. You're doing a good job. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. That's helpful when we get that feedback about these contractors, because we don't always get that. Is there anyone else that did not sign up that would like to speak? All right. Minutes for approval. Could I have a motion to approve the Borough Council meeting minutes for June 11th, 2024?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to approve the Borough Council meeting minutes for June 11th, 2024. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Presentation and acceptance of reports, community development.
I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the zoning and planning report for May 2024.
All right, are there any questions? comments, concerns on that one. Finance, I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the finance reports for May 2024. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? All right. Next, safety and marketing, Councilperson Bernard.
I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the public safety reports for May 2024, including the Columbia Borough Police Department, the Fire Department, the EMOC report, and the EMS report for May. I acknowledge the receipt of the Codes Compliance Report, the Condemnation Report for May 2024.
We don't have a fire department report in the packet.
That's right, I'm going to cross that off. I'm sorry. I did want to say, there she is. Code Manager.
Thank you.
Diffenderfer. I saw that the 68 inspections last month, with 17 of them being fire pit inspections. I thought that was interesting. Either the word's getting out or a lot of NOVs are getting out, and that means the word is getting out. So, yeah. Good job. I guess that's because the codes guys are out walking around, as Mr. Hines says.
Paul, I have a question. When it says the condemnation report, when the compliance date is passed, but yet the status is still in progress, does that mean that they're not complying?
If it's in progress, they're working on it.
Okay,
So
so the compliance date, what does that mean?
that's the initial date given.
So they've been extended.
Correct.
Do they get, what, do they request for an extension?
Yes.
We do.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, presentations, we don't have anything scheduled. Mayor Lutz, Chief Brommer.
Yeah, I have two things I want to talk about tonight. One, I'm sure you've seen this. The popularity of electric bikes, electric scooters, things like that, is really growing. I see it all the time on the streets, kids and adults riding. I think people need to be reminded that, especially the scooters, you don't run them down the sidewalk. I see some of them going down the sidewalk and they're traveling at a pretty good rate of speed. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. We don't want to see them get hurt. They need to follow the rules of the road, the same as a vehicle. They need to be off the sidewalk. Am I right, Chief?
Scooters shouldn't be in the street.
But how are we going to run those scooters?
Scooters are designed for children, so on the
I'm talking
sidewalk,
about the electric.
parents, yeah, they should be in the street. So that's the difficulty. These things are sold.
I'm glad I asked you that.
Yes.
How can we handle it? But last night when I was going home,
So if you want to ride
two
a scooter,
kids turned the corner at 9th and Locust on scooters, and they were rolling faster than I ride on my bike.
yeah, if you want to ride a scooter, ride it in a park. That's the safest way.
What can we do regarding that?
We can and we do stop the kids to tell them, they're not permitted to ride the scooters in the street.
What about the sidewalk? Now, I know the ordinance says if you come upon a pedestrian, you're supposed to get off and walk by them and then get back on.
Those electric scooters they're too powerful, they're too fast, and it creates an unsafe environment for pedestrians. So children's scooters, the one-footed, style, they're okay, being accompanied by a parent. But scooters should not, electric scooters should not be ridden
In the street
in
or,
the street or on the sidewalk, in a park, someplace that is safe to do so.
I think we need to have some discussion on that. Some possible legislation.
Mayor, there's issues with them using the Northwest River Trail too. And you hear people
And I knew that was
complaining,
gonna come up, Mark,
Yep.
thank you.
because they are faster. I mean, when the law was written, they didn't have these high-powered electric scooters. We didn't anticipate them. But now they're flying up and down. You got those one-wheeled things too. I don't even know what they're called, that people, you stand on and they ride. And they're riding right in the flow of traffic, and they're doing 25, 35 miles an hour.
I guarantee you.
And they're not
the two kids-
stopping, so.
The two kids I saw last night, they were doing 20 plus.
We had a bicyclist that was injured last evening, pretty seriously. It was a traditional bike, he had a helmet and stuff on, so it's unsafe to ride these things in the street, especially at excessive speeds.
With that all said, we need to have a discussion, a possible discussion with Evan, to what we can do here. I don't want to be a bad guy. I don't want to be a spoiled sport, but I don't want to see some child or adult seriously injured because of it, and that we didn't take steps to curb it. If it was up to me, I would even look at a helmet law under, say, 18 or something, that they should be wearing a helmet, because it don't take much of a crack on the head on the cement to do some nasty damage. But we'll talk about that a little more. I wanted to bring it up. And to parents, caution your kids. Ride them where they're supposed to be ridden. And be careful, because they are dangerous. They're fast. I saw a kid go down Kinderhook Hill on a scooter. There's no way that kid could stop if you needed to stop. 'Cause it bothered me. I got to talk about this.
You see it a lot with just in the e-bikes as well. And those things go 35 miles an hour easily.
Yeah.
And the other day I was coming up 8th and that Locust guy was coming down Locust from 9th, blew right through 8th, it never
Yeah.
stops.
They don't stop at the stop
Didn't
sign.
even slow down. I thought, man, if I'd
And I have an e-bike
rightfully
and
went, I'd hit him.
I have an e-bike and I ride, and if you see me, you'll see me stop at the intersections. And I won't sneak up alongside of cars at a red light or anything like that. I stay right in where I'm supposed to be. I'm hoping I'm setting an example, but I don't know. Some people are just riding around too indiscriminate.
Well, I saw several of our officers, well, one officer stopped several people the day of the car show that were riding bikes on the sidewalk, and they told him, you gotta get off the wall.
We saw the one guy in an electric bike come through, and one of the officers got him right down here. Yeah. The other issue, a couple of weeks ago, there was a meeting that quite a few of you, if not all of you, attended. It was the Columbia Economic Development Corporation and the Downtown Merchants Association had a joint meeting, and they had a discussion. I don't know if you all got the minutes from that, but I went over the minutes, and one of the things that stuck out was rental units and parking. And I know that we have a lot of rental units in Columbia that don't have off-street parking. And we'll call them the old age-old thing. They were grandfathered in. Grandfathered in before whatever, I don't know, because no one ever told me a date to where this grandfathering started. But to me, that's a significant issue. It was a significant issue at that meeting. My question is, and Evan, we probably need to do some research on this. Is there a way to go back? And I'll give you an example. Is there a way to go back and correct some of these faults, such as if the rental property changes ownership? Can it be brought up to the current codes?
The answer to that is no, not if it's just bought or sold. If somebody wants to change anything about it, yes. But otherwise, really, and honestly, the building code doesn't recognize rental properties as any different than any other multifamily or single family residence, right? Your zoning ordinance would, and wherever the parking regulations are, maybe, but really they are what they are. If it's a single family residence that's being rented out, it has the same restrictions and the same, necessary things that have to be there as if it's an owner occupied property. Same thing with any other multifamily property. So it's not, you can't, I don't know if you could set separate regulations as far as that kind of stuff, parking or any other thing for rental properties versus a single family home or any other multifamily home. That's the difficulty there. But I don't think, and as far as I know, if nothing changes about the property, you don't have any mechanism to require that to be, brought up to, it has to have 2 parking spaces or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Well, it is in our ordinance, in our rental ordinance, that there have to be 2 off-street parking spaces for every rental unit.
Yes, that's true. And, and that is,
but if it's a single family home, that's 1 unit.
Exactly.
So that's 2 spaces.
Exactly. Yeah. Are there,
That's what I'm saying. We have that.
You have that. Okay.
The problem
And
is,
how do we get back and correct the 50 years of problems that were created when rentals became more prevalent? Good word.
That's interesting because if that is part of the rental inspection that you have to have 2 off-street parking spaces, I do wonder if maybe that could be a mechanism. But in most cases, if something was a rental property prior to that ordinance being enacted, you can't really go back and require them to retroactively, bring it up to whatever the new code is. They can kind of, it's the same in zoning. It would be a pre-existing non-conforming use, right? Is what you're kind of looking at.
So it's from a certain date forward.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the problem with that is, and the reason I'm struggling with this is, how do we dig ourselves out of the problem that we created?
Unfortunately, it's an overtime kind of
one of the biggest gripes you hear from the residents in the community is parking. And they'll say, hey, you got this here, and you got a 12-foot wide house, has 2 units in it or something like that there, and they got 4 cars. What are we going to do? We're paying the property taxes, and we can't even park within a block of our house.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's kind of the reality. If that property were to, become a single family residence again, and then somebody else bought it and wanted to turn it back into a rental, then you could, right? But there's not a lot you can do. And I mean, honestly, that's the reality in most urban areas. You go to Philadelphia, right? I mean, there's a lot more people there, but you're lucky if you park within 3 or 4 blocks of your house in some of those neighborhoods.
So then, this is so people understand this. Then the key is to turn single family rentals back into owner occupied.
Yep.
That's the key. That's the message for tonight.
or multifamily units back into
Right.
single family.
Yes. I had to ask that question because that came up in that group.
Yep.
And we want to give them, I'll say, accurate answers to the questions that they ask.
I mean, I do remember a discussion that you guys had about trying to incentivize parking off of alleys, for instance. And maybe that's something that you can, putting parking pads in the backs of these properties on alleys, that may be I don't know what you do to incentivize that, but that was something I know that you guys had discussed. So maybe that's a potential, help in that way. There might be some creative solutions there that you're not just waiting and hoping that these properties turn back into owner occupied.
Well, you know, for that part of it, we're very fortunate this evening that we have a member of the business group, the downtown business group here, and we talked a lot about the spaces in back of some of these businesses. And a lot of these businesses, let's take it this way, a lot of these businesses have rental units. And there could be a lot of parking relief down there. So maybe they'll take that to heart and have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I'll also, I'll also add here, Mayor, because we've had a couple of big apartment buildings added, and
Yes.
zoning relaxed the parking requirements for those properties as well. So, I know from Lancaster County Planning Commission meetings, one of the big pushes is to get municipalities to relax their parking requirements to allow for more compact housing development.
See, and that just makes it worse.
Right, because all of the research lately is showing the decrease in usage of, so, you know, a lot of the homes are made up of, it might just be two people, it might just be one person, that the percentage of people choosing to live alone is growing, so there wouldn't need to be two spaces for someone that's living alone, and all of the changing demographics, so.
I think that works in heavy urban areas. It don't work in I'll say boroughs. Like us, I'll coin the word semi-urban.
You know, but one thing I realized that at our last Boroughs Association meeting, I think you were there, when they showed the maps of a city versus a borough, the borough was actually more dense than the city was.
If you take,
So-
if you take into account the businesses.
Yeah, so I mean, I look at us as a little city.
Yeah, and you know, there again, to go back to your first statement, Heather, we need to look, and when someone proposes it, for example, in the downtown business district, proposes a multi-use project that involves retail on the first floor, residential on the other floors, and they can't come up with the amount of parking, we need this, that's again where we need our business group, our Downtown Merchants Association, get them to go to the merchants, the other businesses, and say, could I buy or rent 2 or 3 parking spaces to satisfy that requirement from you? You know, I always use the example, the 400 block of Locust Street on the even side, the east side, would be the south side. There's a lot of property back there.
Yes, there is.
That could park a lot of cars.
Yes, there is.
We, meaning the borough, not borough council, we, the whole community, we're not taking advantage of what we have.
Well, and there's a lot of apartments in that block that should be using that space anyway. And I can routinely go down through and I see, especially on that side, there's one particular shop owner that is parked in a metered space all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, so we need to do some work there. You know, we talk a lot about parking, but we have to look at, I'll say, some of the low hanging fruit instead of spending a lot of money on parking lots.
And that's, you know, when people talk about that, I tell them there are a lot of, and I mean, going through the different alleys, there's a lot of parking spaces back there and they're not being used.
That's, Chief, you have any questions? So. we
Just
beat-
go
we-
ride your scooter. and
Yeah,
stop on the
we
street.
beat both of those things to death, but we need to take a look at both of them. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, okay. At this time, at 7:32 PM, we're going to exit the regular, meeting. And at 7:32 PM, I'm gonna call to order the public hearing for the Comcast franchise agreement. Evan, you wanna lead us through this?
Absolutely.
This is pretty easy.
Yes, this is, this hearing was advertised in accordance with the law, which is pretty vague, but it was advertised. And so what we're here today to do is talk about if anyone has any issues with the service that Comcast has provided over the last period of this contract. I don't remember exactly, I think 4 years.
4 years.
Yep. And, make that known before you, potentially, sign a new agreement with Comcast. So that's the purpose of the hearing here tonight.
All right, are there any, is there anyone from the public that wanted to speak on the Comcast franchise agreement? Yes, Frank?
By doing this agreement, does this give the borough more money?
I think it's the same.
It's about the same,
It's
right?
about the same,
And what's the period of time?
4 years.
This is another 4-year contract.
Uh, I guess one of my complaints is they charge too much. I'm paying well over $200 and I got the basics. And I don't know, I'm afraid we pass this, does this give them the right to raise it? Is that in here that they're going to raise or not raise?
No, it gives them the right to run their lines in our right of way. That's really what it is. It's kind of an older law, and if you look at what's going on in today's market, you have Glow Fiber, you have Brightspeed, you have some of these other companies coming in. They're not required to get a franchise agreement. They're running their lines, their fiber optic lines on our poles, and they're doing business in the public right of way without these agreements. Comcast falls under the old Telecommunications Act law that requires them to pay for the use of the public right of way. So they're a slightly different beast, which is why a lot of these other companies are trying to jump in now and seeing if they can undercut what they do. So here in Columbia, you do have the option to pick a different broadband company.
Do we have any other choice?
Yeah, Brightspeed is here in town. They actually have a shop up
But
here
they
in
don't
Locust
offer,
Street.
they don't offer cable TV.
No,
service.
it's not cable. That's the difference.
Cable TV, we can.
You can live stream. You can get into the whole streaming world, which my daughters live on now, and they don't have Comcast anymore. They live stream everything. All you need is a broadband internet connection. So there are options.
But
Yep.
Frank, I will say, and it's spelled out in the contract we signed, our revenue is based on, it's 5% of the revenue raised
Right.
in town. So as people drop off, we get less money.
Okay. At the very back, it has locations for cable television service. I know most of them. What's the 421 one that we're paying for? Very, very back of your agreement.
Yeah, I was wondering that
Yeah, I was
too.
gonna ask the same question. Thank you.
I will say, just so
I'm trying to
you are
think.
aware,
I don't know if
the law changed and they don't have to give you free cable and internet for the borough any longer. As far as I know in this agreement, you are still getting that, so you're not actually paying for service at
Right.
those
Yeah, we're
locations.
not paying for service at these locations.
No, I'm just wondering, I think Frank's question and
What is it?
mine
Is
would be
what
what's
is
what's that
421
for?
Where
enrollment?
is that?
Why do they have it on there?
Well, no, this is the location for cable TV service this is the locations that they're providing us cable for free.
Okay.
But we don't know what 421.
It's the post office.
Post office.
Yeah, play that.
That's what it is.
There we go, the post office gets cable.
That's what it is.
I don't know why Maple Park gets cable.
Program for it.
We added that one for the purpose of putting additional cameras down there so that we don't have to beam the camera signal up. So that was something we negotiated in this contract.
There we go. Are we going to have an issue, because we have the highway department on here, when our highway department moves, are we gonna have an issue changing the address?
No, we talked about that too. So as soon as that goes in, they'll just move the service to the new location.
Right. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns on the board that would like to be recognized in the hearing?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
I read some things in here that, and I wasn't able to get a clear-cut answer in the agreement, but what I see, matter of fact, this goes a little further than just Comcast, but we're talking about Comcast tonight. When they disconnect the service, they leave these lines hang, wrap them around telephone poles, and everything else. And quite often, we get calls that there's a wire down. So, and what it is, they just terminate the wire, they just terminate the service and let the wire hang. There's so much spaghetti up in the air that I don't know what it is sometimes. I don't think anybody knows what it is. And I mean, this even goes further as far as dishes on porches. One dish company will put a dish on and they won't remove it if the service is gone. And then another dish company will come in and put their dish alongside of it. You see this all the time. But this equipment that's not being taken down when the service is no longer being used, to me, is wrong. They should pull this equipment down, not wrap it around a telephone pole or just let it hang. I saw one, I think it was Fifth and Cherry. It was wrapped around a telephone pole, probably 50 foot of cable wrapped around a telephone. That don't make sense to me. To me, that's poor business. It doesn't look right in the community. And with the wires hanging down quite often, it just don't make sense. And I don't know if there's something we can put in that agreement that says when you disconnect the service, you remove the, it says about removing things, but it doesn't say remove that service. And all you gotta do is go up to the tap where it's spliced in, remove it, and pull the wire down. Rather than just disconnect it from the house and wrap it around the pole.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just Comcast, you're right. It's a lot of these providers that do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, many times they don't even disconnect them from the house. They just
No,
turn
they
it
don't.
off.
They just turn it off. But you see it, I know you all seen it hanging down and wrapped around poles and all. And the electric company does some of this stuff. They'll cut poles out, they'll cut the center of poles out, or the bottom of the pole out, and let it hang. Because the other services are still hooked to it. Well, to me, that's unsafe as the devil. Part of a telephone pole hanging by the wire. You know. I believe when you do a job, you should do the job completely, not part of it.
I don't know that we can.
Yeah. Just so you all are aware, I did not put this agreement together. There's a specialized law firm, Cohen Law Group, who does this for everyone, and they've done it for you. It's certainly something we could run by them. I'm not.
I think it bears a discussion with them.
Yeah.
To say, look, we're tired of seeing all these wires hanging around.
Yeah. We could certainly, we're not under any time crunch right now to approve this agreement. So if it waited until the next meeting, there's no big deal. But we could certainly reach out to them and see. With them being regulated by the federal government, it becomes a little bit tougher to do that. But if they have to sign this agreement, it's certainly worthwhile asking, for sure. If that's something you guys would like to do, that's up to council. So
What happens now when they're staying with the wire? Who takes care of it? Take care of-
Jake gets called now and then, yeah.
Why couldn't it be just something as simple as if there's a dangling wire, they come out and take care of it? A wire that's not dangling isn't necessarily a problem.
I put a ladder up and cut mine.
So the homeowner can do that. We have understood that how they do it.
No reason to assume that they should come out and disconnect every single service. Typically, I think that's a problem when folks switch over to dish.
Yeah.
Right? They switch over to dish, they dish the cable, and then the cable gets disconnected, they plug into the dish.
If you look at,
Well, everything's wireless now, so who does wires anymore? Aren't they all obsolete?
no, you gotta have wire run into your
The
house.
wire comes to your
Yeah.
house. yeah.
If you look at section 3.8F of the agreement, I don't know, Mark, if you can pull that up. It's page 47 of but what it says is, I'm guessing what will be cover it is, it says all structures and all lines, equipment, connections in, over, under, or upon streets, sidewalks, alleys, and public and private ways and places of the borough shall be at all times kept and maintained in a safe and suitable condition and in good order and repair in accordance with customary industry standards
There
and
you go.
practices. That's
So
what
it's already in there.
they're gonna, that's what they're gonna that's where you would find this. And now, is a wire wrapped around a pole customary industry standards and practices? I don't know, it may be, but if you have a problem, that will be the section you would want to cite.
Mhm.
I'm not sure there's gonna be much stronger language than that you're gonna get into an agreement like
Well,
this.
truthfully, I think it's a wish and a prayer.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that we're not happy, you tell them, we're not happy with this, you need to do a better job. And maybe they will.
Yeah, I know, right?
I just had a comment. Before I read through this, I always assumed that it was an exclusive agreement, but in section 2.4, it says there is no exclusivity to it. So it's not preventing us from allowing competition to bring prices down. Like we could, if there was another cable company that thought it was worth their time to put up cable through the whole town to offer a second system, then they could.
Yep.
But more than likely, that's not going to happen.
I don't even know of another, well, this is not exclusive. These territories have been kind of carved out, and I'm not even sure there's another cable company within 50 or 100 miles that actually has service anywhere around. There really is not much of any.
Truthfully, they're a dying breed.
Yep.
As you Evan, and Mark, these young people don't get, they don't do that. They stream and everything. I just put fiber into my house, and that took care of it.
Blue Ridge Cable operates kind of in the northeast corner of the county. I think they're the only other one in the county that I know of that actually provides cable service.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Is there any other questions or comments on the Comcast agreement?
You don't accept.
That's a good question. I think point one, you'd lose the revenue. Then they don't pay you.
Is that money used for-
Yeah.
That money's used to help cover the crossings. Isn't that?
No. The
No, that's
the crossings is
That's
the
the
electric
Verizon.
money.
Okay, that's
So
right.
the electric,
The Verizon, the cell tower.
And, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious, like in the past, I don't know, have we lost, do we maintain the same amount of revenue as we had previously? Has it been going down?
it adjusts a little bit. I mean,
It's been going
when Tammy
down.
runs the numbers, you'll see it changes. I think with Glow Fiber coming in, and honestly, the shift to just people getting broadband only and dropping cable, I think we're going to see an increase of that
But I
happening.
think if we don't have a franchise agreement, they can't offer cable in the borough.
Correct.
So if we didn't approve this, then no one in Columbia Borough would be able to get cable.
I see. How much money do we make?
131,000.
Thank you.
Well, no, they have to go with Blue Fiber or
Good job,
whatever.
Peter.
I just looked at the finance report.
Yeah.
131,000 the last year.
Yeah.
Or this year.
Yes, right.
something I was wondering, does the revenue to the borough depend on the customers that they have?
Yeah,
Yes,
So if it's up and down,
and it does.
and it does,
It
and
does.
but it's been declining slightly the last at least 5 years. As people drop cable. Mhm.
If you run the calculation of 131,000 times, as that's 5% of their total sales in the borough, then they're right up against $3 million gross sales. That
They're making money.
they're making money.
And Todd, to answer your question a little further, if you were to not approve this agreement right now, what really happens is you go into kind of a forced mediation process that's laid out by the telecommunications law, and you essentially get to a deal that way. You're not going to not have one, is what I'm telling you. Yeah.
You know, and the whole premise of my comment in the beginning about the wires and all the TV, as people drop cable TV and pick up other things, there's more of that's gonna be happening. We're gonna have a whole lot of that dead lines hanging around on telephone poles, whatever have you in the community.
If you saw the paper on Sunday, Lancaster City is going through a big transition. They adopted their own broadband system back in, 2016, 17. Didn't really work. Glow Fiber is now taking over their system and finishing the network out. So the idea of even local municipalities, and I know we talked about this back during COVID when all the money was rolling out, and that's one of the things they offered is you could spend your ARPA money on broadband. I know we had the conversation with the school district of, do we want to do that when we're doing everything all remote? Municipally owned networks like that struggle. It's difficult.
I'm kind of glad that we didn't go that
Yeah.
route now. because
Yeah, looking
now
backwards,
seeing-
it
seeing
sounded
all
good.
these municipalities that did it and are really struggling and.
It sounded good at the moment, but it's probably hindsight. Probably we did well on that one.
All right, anything else on the Comcast franchise agreement? All right, then at 7:50 PM, I'm going to close the public hearing. At 7:50 PM, we are re-entering the regular Borough Council meeting. Our first action item is to consider resolution 2024-24 to approve the Comcast franchise agreement. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Murphy. Is that right? Yeah.
Either one, come on.
To adopt resolution 2024-24 to approve the Comcast franchise agreement. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Next, we have three hard certificate of appropriatenesses. That was very awkward. The first one we have is certificate of appropriateness for 137 Locust Street for the replacement of front door and replacement of wood panels for glass side panels. This was approved without conditions. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
If you guys want to see details on them, let me know and I'll put them up on the screen if you guys want to dig into it.
This is the common wheel building.
Mhm.
Any questions, comments?
I will simply say, just for clarity's sake, the door was swapped out already, but it was an in-kind replacement. They literally replaced the existing old rotting door with as close as you can get to the exact same door. Where they stopped was on the side panels. They're wood panels right now. They want to put light or clear glass panels on the side. So that's the transition they're looking for.
would anyone like to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 137 Locust Street?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 137 Locust Street, the replacement front door and the replacement of wood panels for clear glass side panels. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, we have a certificate of appropriateness for 170 South Fifth Street for the repairs and replacement of windows and siding. This was recommended approval with the condition that, regarding the siding, that the facade, sides, and back of dwelling are uniform in material and vertical placement of siding is not acceptable. Is there any?
Read that again.
Yes. Harb recommended approval with the conditions regarding the siding, that the facade, sides, and back of the dwelling are uniform in material. Vertical placement of siding is not acceptable. Basically, in the thing, there were two different styles of siding that were proposed, one on the front and one on the side. Harb says it all has to be the same.
Hard to say side and rear of the house.
Hard to not say that all be the same, they, well, they just took me since the other. At the hard meeting 13 days ago, they merely made a suggestion, they did not tell me that I could or could not. They said that all they could do is suggest it, or kick it back to this meeting.
Right, yeah, that's what we're reading their recommendations.
So that's the property.
But the sides of the property, the side of the property is actually visible from Fifth Street as well, so.
That was on
To your right.
Do I have permission to put siding on this house?
So what's your intention?
I just want to put the siding on, I put
I mean,
siding on.
horizontal or vertical?
Well,
You'll-
Harb
vertical
says
side-
the vertical siding is not appropriate,
Okay.
so.
I just want to put siding on this building. Well, I'm glad to see somebody's bad. I'm working on it because I had that thing shut down for a month. And I went somewhere else for it. I'm not getting any problems, so I'm making money. So. Now I'm on a different agenda. I don't even know if I'm even going to get to that place this year. So my permit's good till April at least. So. I get till when they're around to it at this point. I just need to know if I got approved for something.
So are there any other questions, comments, concerns?
I did do a pretty good turnaround on that.
It would not have taken this long had you followed the standard procedure and come to fill out the
Of course it's not.
the application. I mean, it's really disheartening that we have 3 certificate of appropriateness for tonight. And all 3 of them are things that were started before they went, or started or completed before they went to Harb. And all we're doing is double charging for the permit. Are we really interested in getting compliance? Because if we are, then we need to do something more to encourage compliance, not just say it's a double permit fee. It needs to be like a flat, like $500 for doing things without a permit. Because this is ridiculous. This is free.
Our permit was like 700, so we hurried
Well-
over 500.
So then double that 1,400.
So then if we approve it with the condition,
Mhm.
then after everything is done, does someone go back and inspect it? to-
Mhm. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, the codes, it's their job to make sure
That's their
that
job.
our things are complied with, so. And if you put different siding on the front and the side, that would have to get remediated.
So the topic that was, down there at the wheel place down there on River Street. That lady, however, told me the last meeting, that was only 13 days, and she did her work without any permission.
Yes, I know, that's what I'm saying, we just approved hers.
So what's the big
So-
deal there? Like, the thing is like.
That's what I'm saying, it was done without the hard permit.
We- Get the transfer side of it.
I mean, she doesn't have all her stuff done either.
She got stopped too, yeah.
She got stopped too. She got to stop work as well. She didn't get all her work done. She still has the side panels
I'm probably
to do.
gonna be done for the rest of the year. I'm busy.
So, all right. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Did anyone want to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for,
170 South.
170 South Fifth Street, for the repairs and replacement of windows and siding with the condition that the siding on the facade sides and back of the dwelling are uniform in material and vertical placement of siding is not acceptable.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Murphy and a second by Councilperson Price to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 170 South Fifth Street. Any further questions, comments? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, would you like to sign this evening? It's actually it'll be Jose. Because that's whose name's on here. 6. Yeah, right above me. And then Paul will make sure he gets a copy of that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and next, we have a certificate of appropriateness for 318 Walnut Street for the repairs and replacement of exterior steps and to add a landing. No one's here from this applicant either. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? This is another one of those where all the work was done before. Yes.
Well, you have
Oh.
a picture of that?
Here's one.
Yeah, before we say anything, I just want to say that the HARB recommended approval with the condition that the enclosure of the opening below the landing. All right, Sharon.
Sharon, I thought it's kind of funny that you brought up, Heather, about having, all these kind of after the fact, things happening, because it is happening more frequently than I've ever seen the company before. And it's almost to the point where I do not believe the fines are the answer, because people just pay the fine, do what they want. If we can't have, I brought this along, Mark gave this to me, a manual for, HARB, and I believe you gave it to the HARB members as well. I'm not sure if you guys got it on council or not, but it has, on page 14, a whole section about enforcement, and enforcement comes down to you all when, you approve these. And so, making it exceptions, it says here, and relaxing enforcement undermines not only the efforts of the HARB and Historical Commission, but it erodes the municipality's authority overall. And there's a lot more to that. I think you guys should have a copy of that if they didn't get it. I know HARB members did.
But if HARB is recommending approval,
Yeah.
why?
But you still would vote on it. They're only a recommending body. That doesn't mean, when it comes down to enforcement, they're not the ones enforcing. You guys are. And if
Right,
it's-
but they are, HARB is the one that is
Jody's recommendation.
they're the experts in this.
Well,
So,
that's.
I mean, that got us in trouble before, Sharon. We went against HARB and then all HARB quit.
But they did so for a very good reason.
Because we
But
went
my
against
point
them.
is, you're saying it is a recommending body, you said that yourself.
Mhm.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that you must agree with what what they recommend.
No, and I get that, but what I'm saying is last time we went against what they recommended, which is exactly what you're advocating for here. The last time we went against what they recommended, they all quit.
Well, that was on principle and that was a different kind of
How was that
situation.
different?
How's that any different?
How was that circumstance?
We don't know that this part would all quit based on.
We didn't know that part would quit either.
We didn't know that part would quit either.
My point is, the fines aren't stopping this. I think you need to say, like we did on 13th Street, tear it down. If you're not in compliance, not only stop work, but remove what you've done if there's any question at all about it. If you want compliance and you want to keep that district intact, I think that's what you have to do. Now, if you're not willing to do that, then it's arbitrary, the enforcement and so forth. And I said it before and I'll say it again, I would do the same thing. I would just move ahead with my plans and pay the fine.
Well, why would HARB, if HARB is the recommending body, we're just an approval body here, right? They are the so-called unexpert experts. We are not even the novices. We're relying on them to bring some kind of expertise. Aren't there like architects and all kinds of other members of that board that are specific to the intricacies and the concerns of HARB. If they don't have the guts to come up and say, hey, that thing needs torn down, I'm gonna throw it at council because we don't wanna upset anybody. I'm not doing their dirty work for them. I would expect if they were to say that wooden mess, I think it looks like a mess, needs to come down, I would say, I go with HARB, I agree, it looks like a mess. I would happily turn down an application if HARB would have the guts to say it. I mean, I would enforce what they said.
Before the HARB then
I'm sorry, what?
You didn't do it before when the HARB.
There was an argument. I'm not going to get into that.
Well, I know, and I didn't
That's
want to
water
go down
under the
that
bridge.
road. I'm just saying, if you can't, you guys have to be the ones to enforce. HARB does not enforce, they recommend. That's all I'm saying. Fines aren't working.
The other thing, we pay the Lancaster Historic
Preservation Trust.
Preservation Trust to provide us with expert opinions.
I believe that just started recently,
And,
right?
right, and I mean, from what I read, everything that HARB did was in accordance with what the Historic Preservation Trust said, so.
May I ask you this? Has the new HARB ever refused or declined anyone, do you know? Have you ever refused?
In this case, they did decline part of what
Well,
Jose Santiago wanted.
vertical work, is that what you're referring to?
And
He wanted
They-
different styles on it.
he wanted different style siding on the front and everything, and they said no.
Okay, well, I'm not here to argue a specific case or anything, I just wanted to bring to your attention that I felt that we need more teeth in enforcement if we plan to go through having a historic district. I just think that the fines are just simply not working, and especially for business people who can afford to pay it.
Well, then we make the fines more so that it gets their attention.
I'm sorry, did you?
No, I would say, just looking at this particular picture as well, I particularly don't care for the way that looks. But that doesn't mean that other people on the HARB board or on this board might say, no, I have no problem with that. So
Well,
that's kind of why we have to take
it
it.
really doesn't belong in the facade of a home in the historic district. But
No, but it
I'm
replaced
not
pressure
here
treated wood.
to argue that particular thing, I'm just saying the fact that people continually move forward with everything and get it done by the time it gets here. And some things have just remained like white vinyl fencing that I had reported way back, just is standing there today, years later, because it just fell through the cracks and there it is, and there we have it. So anyhow, I just think it is eroding the district by, not catching this somehow before it gets to that point. Thank you.
I would like to kind of add to that. Part of the problem must be that people don't understand that HARB is a necessary step. And so to me, in some ways, it's a lack of communication on the borough's part in when, and maybe some of these cases, people didn't even show up to apply for a building permit. But when the building permit process is initiated, there should be a following process on top of that where they receive the necessary applications just along with the building permit.
Well, and like the case of the common wheel, the replacement of the door wouldn't have triggered the
Right, but the
permit. So she would have had to know that she had to go to Barb.
so yeah, in that case, they don't go through that step. I see what you're saying. But in some way, we need to be able to communicate with people who purchase a property or own buildings in the historic district that that's a necessary step.
And we've been saying that forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have money in their account to begin with something, but it just is all talk. It never brings.
Did you say this is an in-kind replacement?
The door was, yes.
Did you say this?
No, not this one. But no, this was an in-kind replacement too, because they were pressure treated steps that were
Well,
rotted.
there's before.
Yeah. The only difference is they changed the orientation.
So those pressure treated steps and
Yeah.
added, so they turned it
Well, yeah,
sideways
to
and
match
added.
the neighbors, but
Well, if you look at that, the whole thing is a mess.
yeah.
These houses, when they were built to be mirror images of the other side.
Mhm.
And if you look at that door, above the door, that's completely changed.
Yep.
Doors were changed. The porch doesn't even resemble the other porch.
Mhm.
I think was original because of that iron railing,
Yeah.
you know. There has to be a way to say, hold it once, you need to make these, you need to take these back where they're supposed to be. This in-kind replacement, if there was a mistake made, why keep up the mistake? You should throw the brakes on and say, no, take it back where it was, the original. To me, that's historic preservation. This step, the other steps, they should never been approved. This step here, it's terrible. Looks good for a cabin.
Was anyone present here at that HARB meeting for this review?
No, I wasn't.
I'm also curious why that, and if that was brought up, because it's not really it's in kind to what it was previously, more recently, but it's not in kind to the historic district.
So there's a couple factors there. What do you think is active?
And how do you know?
The house is probably built.
To comps. So like the next door neighbor, is it comparable?
Was the neighbors is lower than that?
The neighbors isn't that gonna approve.
You can't do that. I mean, the goal is to go back to the original facade.
So should HARB go back to the Historical Preservation Society and dig up as much information as they can?
That's where
Tons
we're
of
at.
photos.
That's where we're at. There's a two-step process here. First of all, a lot of these homes will be rated as, not coming out here.
Non-contributing
Non-contributing.
or contributing, yeah.
Which will have leeway for this kind of stuff. Whereas contributing properties in the borough, like Shannon's home, who bring great value to our historic district, they will be under a different set of standards because of their ranking in historic value.
So do you think that's a consideration of HARB to approving this? Because to me, I don't know if this passes HARB regulations. I would say no, just because of aesthetics. To me, it's not pleasing. I don't like it.
Okay, so
I don't think that's good enough to say no. I'm relying on HARB to say it can or it cannot exist. Doesn't matter what I think.
So here's what the Historic Preservation Trust said. This work has already been completed without a harbor review. The replacement of unoriginal wood steps with pressure-treated wood steps would be appropriate. The change of orientation, adding the landing and decorative railing, is inappropriate. Based on the rhythm and patterns of the steps, porches, and stoops on the 300 block of Walnut Street, there are a variety of styles due to the various architectural styles. There is no evidence in the brick that this step orientation was against the wall rather than directly onto the sidewalk.
Did they change the orientation because the neighbors is orientated the other way? I don't know. I mean, but steps coming straight down when the neighbors comes and goes out to the side. And obviously the neighbors isn't original to the property either.
And the one
Were
thing
they
that is-
trying to match that?
The one thing that is mentioned in that from the Historic Preservation Trust is that I don't know what the height requirements are, but the railing may be required by building code.
Building code.
Change
It
that.
is required.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
So this is where the confusion comes in. This is why we hired the group to come around and recertify everything. To make it A, easier to control and slash control, and B, be a little more lucid on properties that aren't as significant as others.
Listening to what was reported by the expert. And I agree with you, Eric, what you said. I know down in the city, there are two different standards. There's a different, you have probably, Old Town like that is held to a higher standard than other parts of Nice.
Sure.
I have to have windows replaced in one of my units. $1,200 per, I could be getting them for $200.
Yeah.
Because it's in a historic district and it needs to be on, they need to be wooden.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, that may be something that we have to look at. And I think that's part of the inventory was supposed to show the before and list them on every property as contributing or non-contributing, or conforming or not, however you want to word. So that you can look at that and say, no, you gotta do this. Or, yeah, you can replace,
And again,
you can replace the mistakes that have been made before.
Harb uses that already. The problem is that book was 1988.
It's old, yeah, which is why we're updating it now.
Right, so I mean,
And just as a reminder, the money we're spending on the survey is last year's grant. This year's grant, to Sharon's point, is to develop education materials and send them out to all the properties in the historic district to inform them that they're in a historic district, to give them information about their property, and to help them understand the process of doing facade restorations to an historic home. So it is coming. I know it feels like it's taken too long, but it's the cost of this is more than I think we had budgeted for, we want to spend. The grant is going to help a lot to get this stuff out there and get it in the hands of people. For the public hearing that we held, or public meeting we held, to talk about the historic district, we sent a postcard to every property in the historic district. That alone helped them see, hey, we're in the historic district, this is part of it. So more is coming.
And then who's that written by?
From the trust,
This is the
Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster.
There's their
Preservation Trust
recommendation
of
on that
Lancaster.
project right there.
Yes, their recommendation, it says the work has already been completed
That's
without.
irrelevant. That should be irrelevant.
Right, I know, but I'm just reading you said read the paragraph, so I'll read the paragraph. The replacement of look, he tells me to read the paragraph and then he's just gonna read the paragraph.
Go read the first 4 words.
Okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Been completed.
Without a harbor. The replacement of unoriginal wood steps with pressure-treated wood steps would be appropriate. The change of orientation, adding the landing and decorative railing, if not required by IBC, which is an International Building Code, is inappropriate. Based on the rhythm and patterns of the steps, porches, and stoops on the 300 block of Walnut Street, There are a variety of styles due to the various architectural styles. There is no evidence in the brick that the step orientation was against the wall rather than directly onto the sidewalk.
So it's very ambiguous. It's not committal,
Mhm.
other than, they already did it, so, no
But,
commitment
I mean,
from
they
us.
do say that it's not appropriate to change the orientation, that it should go right from the door down the sidewalk. It should not have a landing.
What they say was there's no
Evidence in the brick,
evidence in the ground.
right here, that there was a previous set of steps. This is the original.
Whereas if there had been steps that came out that way, you would expect to see issues in the bricks.
So then Harb read that, they dissected that, well, except for the first 4 words, and made the recommendation that it's okay.
It's okay as long as they cover that open spot beneath the landing.
So my question is,
Cover
what,
this.
what do they cover it with? And should that also go through, I would want that to go through approval process. Because what if it's, yeah.
Yeah, it should
But
be
then
matching.
how do they approve something that's added to something that is put up out of order?
Right.
Should be the same material as steps and landing of the exit.
They should probably
One thing.
recommend what to use. Yeah.
Yep.
Just one suggestion is simply table this and have them come back with a recommendation. And your approval is based on what they agree to put on underneath the things. You do one approval.
Sharon's right on that about.
I'd like to not approve it at all and
Right.
make them turn them back like the Historic Preservation Trust says.
How do you give them the first 4 words, right? How do you have that being
The work has already
the
been.
preamble to a non-reason, right?
Can we table it with a memo?
And what they did, first what you said,
Is that
I said, if this was if they had done this in brick, would you even have this conversation? Because it would blend in. It actually adds. I mean, if anybody's ever carried groceries in and out your front door, be glad you have a little bit of a landing there. when you step in.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, man.
Well, that's required by the building
That's,
code.
Had this come before Harb in the proper order, I
Mhm.
can almost imagine
Yeah.
that one of their recommendations would have been
Material.
talk to the neighbor and see if both porches could have been replaced so that they matched.
Yeah.
Right. That other building is owned by the parsonage, by the church. That was the correct way to go
Is that
back.
the salon?
Replace the whole thing.
Mhm. No, that's the salons on the other side,
Landing or
the other side of the church.
That concrete step there, that's my issue.
Yeah, I wonder what Harp would have said if they brought this before, hey, here's my plan, here's a picture of what I presume it's gonna look like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What would it would have passed?
Yeah, one big thing, step one down.
Frank?
Very good discussion. So while I'm here, I want to know if 254 North Ninth Street is in the historic district.
No.
I didn't think it was, but I thought.
To North Ninth, no.
Yes.
That'd be outside.
Good news. Thank you.
All right. Did we beat this enough? Would anybody like to make a motion on this certificate of appropriateness? Did you want to hear one more time, Todd? This work has already been completed.
I'd be just as confused the 4th time as I was the first.
Is there any motion on this certificate of appropriateness for 318 Walnut Street?
I would like to table it or suggest that we table it with a request that Harb make a recommendation on materials for enclosing it and or re-advise the situation,
Reevaluate.
reevaluate, yeah.
Mhm.
So almost remand it back to Harb. They look at it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
send it
to-
back, send it
For a
back
more
to,
robust
send
recommendation.
it back to Harb and ask them to start,
Look at it
start
again.
the process again, look at it again.
All right, I have a motion by Councilperson Stahl to table,
I would say remand it back.
to remand back to Harb the certificate of appropriateness for 318 Walnut Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Stahl, second by Councilperson Murphy, to remand back to Harb the certificate of appropriateness for 318 Walnut Street. We would like Harb to reconsider this and also provide guidance on material recommendation for enclosure of space under the landing.
And just, you know, we appreciate Harb and everything they do.
Yeah.
This is how we learn to work together.
Mhm.
For
Yes.
some of our Historic districts, and thank you Harb, for everything that you do.
Would you like me to look at what the fines are? Is that something you'd still like to
Yes,
explore?
please.
Okay, are they, I would imagine they're in your fee resolution. I'll take a look.
Yeah, it is. It's,
Okay.
it's double the permit fee.
I'll look around and see what other places are doing and see if there's anything more robust we can
Yeah,
do.
because, I mean, obviously,
Or double the permit is not getting the job done.
I mean, in some cases where, like you said, he paid $700, I mean, that's $1,400, that's a lot, but what we say is $500 or double the permit fee.
Mhm.
Something like that.
Has anybody checked to see the data or something like that?
I have not been down that way. To see if they have included that.
Has that been included yet?
All right. Any further discussion? Horse is dead. I have a motion by Councilperson Stahl, second by Councilperson Murphy, to remand back to Harb the certificate of appropriateness for 318 Walnut Street, to have them reconsider the project plus provide guidance on material for enclosing the space below the landing.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, there we go. Woo. Barb had me sweating tonight. Next, we have the 2024 curb replacement project. We're asked to consider awarding the curb replacement project to the lowest bidder, Reevestown Excavating, for their bid in the amount of $74,500.
So those qualified.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't you think very good?
All the bids were very close.
They were all
these.
very close. Reevestown's done stuff for us for
Yep.
Yeah.
for years. I mean, they've been good. I did have one question because I didn't see it on the executive summary. Refresh my memory, where does this money come from? Does this come from
Liquid fuels, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it wasn't on the, executive brief or the summary. So it comes from liquid fuels. Is there a motion to award the project to Reevestown Excavating?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Councilperson Stahl and a second by Councilperson Kaufman to award the 2024 curb ramp replacement project to the lowest qualified bidder, Reevestown Excavating, for their bid in the amount of $74,500. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, could I have a motion to authorize the bill payments?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Price to authorize the bill payments. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? I'm not sure if anyone noticed, but one of the things that one of the checks we will be signing tonight is the $8,000 to, shoot,
The fireworks.
for the fireworks for the 4th of July. We have gone in with Wrightsville. They've expanded their show to include Columbia Borough. They've actually moved it from John Wright down to right across from our river part. And so it should be a really good show. And it is July 4th. It says dusk.
Mhm.
So whenever that is, Wrightsville does they're having like all kinds of stuff happening over there that whole day. There was no one that coordinated anything like that on our side of the river. So hopefully maybe for next year we can, maybe that's something we can task Parks and Rec with for next year to come up with something for our side of the river with, food trucks or whatever. But yes, Columbia's having fireworks.
That's good.
Yes.
Share the fun with them.
Yes. So, are there any other questions, comments, concerns on the bill payments? I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Price, to authorize the bill payments. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. And now we have new business to consider. We have a special event application for the Columbia Merchants Association Mac and Cheese Festival on Saturday, September 28th, from 4 to 10 p.m., contingent upon receipt of the required certificate of insurance. In case anyone did not read it, like I did not, the reason this is coming to us is because we're actually approving them to shut down Sadie Lane. We're not approving the use of the market house. So, and I'm assuming the market house, that has all gone through Chris, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So this one is just the shutting down of Sadie Lane
Sadie Lane is for,
for cables.
yes.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't do a good job reading, and Mark set me straight this morning, so. Are there any other questions, comments? Does anyone have a problem voting on this one tonight?
Chief, you have any problems?
No. And this would be one of those times, Frank, where we will move the police cars out of Sadie Lane and put them along the side and the front of. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the special event application for the Columbia Merchants Association for the Mac and Cheese Festival on Saturday, September 28th from 4 to 10 p.m., contingent upon receipt of the required certificate of insurance? I have a motion by Councilperson Price, second by Councilperson Kaufman, to approve the special event application. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, there we go. Thanks. Next, we have two pilot agreements, one for 309 Locust and one for 315 Locust. Mark, do you want to take this, explain this?
Sure. So back when the borough adopted the KOZ program and ordinance, these properties were listed as eligible to receive the tax benefit. KOZ, similar to LERTA, is a tax deferred program where for a period of time you pay the pre-improvement assessed value as your tax rate. It's taken a while for these buildings to get to the point where they're now being reassessed. And again, we're talking right across the street here for the loss of 315. There were some questions for a while as to why the pilots weren't put together originally back in 2020. It's because at the time the program was put together, the Columbia EDC owned the buildings, and as a nonprofit, they weren't paying taxes, so there was no pilot put together for those. And backing up is that pilot is a strange way of saying payment in lieu of taxes. So they're still paying taxes, they're paying 110% of the pre-construction value for a period of from today through 2028, I believe it is. So had these buildings moved sooner, they would have still had till 28. They would have had more years of the tax relief. The purpose of this program was put together so that projects like this are encouraged in areas that need redevelopment. I know we've talked about whether we still want to have a LERTA program here. I think that's a discussion we can have. But I think the programs like this, back when the borough adopted them, did help encourage developers and investors to say, hey, if I get 10 years of relief from the increased costs and taxes, I can make the pro forma work and I can run these numbers and I can make this project run, because that difference allows me to generate revenue until I start paying the full tax burden. So the county has already approved the KOZ for this. School district and I work together. Our ordinances are the same, or I guess the pilot agreements are the same. School district will take action on theirs at their next board meeting. So this is all lined up, ready to go for this year.
Yes, Sharon.
It was my understanding that there are compliance issues before a person can qualify for that. So does that come into play at a county level or state level?
State level.
Okay, so they would be the ones that would look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, the building at 430 Walnut, I think it is. That one was in the KOZ program, was taken out because of compliance issues, and the state pulled it from the program. Yep.
Yes, Frank.
How many other businesses are getting this or in the KOZ? I think at that time there were 7, if I'm thinking back right, there were 7 that had their names in. I don't know when they started doing this, but can you remember? Maybe you don't remember that.
It's the 2 buildings, 315, 309, 430 was in it, was pulled out. The Burning Bridge property was in there, and the parking lot behind it, and the hotel project, the Chip Factory Hotel on 2nd Street are the properties. Now, I'll say this, initially, when the borough first looked at it, the McGinnis property was to be included in the KOZ, then that was taken out.
I think what Sharon was referring to being compliant, if you owe taxes, what taxes, I don't know, but you mean the borough doesn't have any control over that?
It's the state that would then decide whether their compliance would kick them out of the program.
Okay.
LERTA would, on the other side, that would be all ours, because that would be our ordinance. So, and again, KOZ is a Keystone Opportunity Zone. It's a state-regulated tax defer program. LERTA is a local program.
So at the end of the 5 or 6 years, then that's done.
It's done, and then no other properties can join unless the borough adopts a new ordinance.
Why do you call it a pilot program?
Payment in lieu of taxes. It's an abbreviation of that phrase.
Makes sense.
Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Good explanation.
So,
I would act on them, yeah, put them together as on one in brief, but I would take them separately.
so for the one building, we're gonna get $748.88 tax per year. And for
748 for the one, and the other one
is 572.
yeah.
Does anyone have a problem voting on this one tonight?
Yeah.
Did anyone want to make a motion to approve the pilot agreement for 309 Locust Street?
So moved.
Second. A motion by Councilperson Murphy, second by Councilperson Kaufman, to approve the pilot agreement for 309 Locust Street. Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, could I have a motion to approve the pilot agreement for 315 Locust Street?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilperson Murphy, second by Councilperson Kaufman, to approve the pilot agreement for 315 Locust Street. Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Next, we're asked to consider engaging Scott Fiore to act as a consultant for the purpose of recruiting a borough manager. Barb or Joanne, do you want to take the lead on this one? Or do you want me to do it? Go ahead. Barb, Joanne, and I are acting as we talked about, the hiring committee. We had a meeting with Scott Fiore from TriStar Staffing last Monday, and he does recruiting for executive level positions. We were very impressed with what he had to say. We had talked about that before, that it may be worth our while to have someone help us. He will do it all. He will place ads where they've not already been placed. He will actually go out looking for candidates that have what we're looking for. He does all of the initial interviews. He records all of the interviews so that they can be sent to all of us to review, to hear the initial interviews. When it comes to the point where council would be involved, he will record those as well, but he asks all the questions, he moderates it, so we don't have to, for those of you that were here last time we did this, Todd, Eric, we sat here trying to figure out who was going to be next to ask the question, and we don't have to do any of that. He asks the questions. He does ask that we meet with him so that he can get a gauge on what is important to us, what kind of questions we would want to know, what are our most important qualifications that we're looking for. He actually said he believes that we will not have any problem getting 20 to 25 candidates to pick from for this position. He has done this for multiple other people. They have all gone, except for one, with his recommendation. And that one was actually Mark. They went with someone else. He had recommended Mark and they went with someone else because it was one of those inside jobs, but they had to go through the motion. His fee is $15,000. We do have a line item for consulting services, and that line item is in the budget is $25,000. So we do have the money in the budget for it. The three of us believed that this was an extremely good value to be able to do this and push it forward, so that it also relieves pressure on our staff, because he'll do the background checks, he does the reference checks, he does all of that. So Tammy doesn't have to worry about anything, until we get to the point that, we need her involved, no other staff is impacted, he does it. So what questions do we have?
Go ahead.
I was looking at is,
Proposal?
As you're looking for that, Todd, just as a reminder to you, the $25,000 is in there because you recommended it the last budget cycle,
Oh, yeah, that's
that
right.
we put additional
Hey, now
money
let's
in
be-
for
I'm the
consulting.
one that brought that up today,
Yeah.
so he's taking credit for that. but
No, I'm giving him
Yes.
credit.
Yeah, Tammy pointed that out.
I
This
did.
was your money you put in there in case we needed it.
um,
Forward thinking.
Proposed schedule, if I'm adding up his weeks here, if they're all cumulative, we're talking 19 to 32 weeks.
He said it could take up to 6 months.
He said it could take up to 6
40
months.
payments. Did you already say that?
Yes,
Okay, I'm
but
sorry, I
it's,
missed that.
it's one flat fee. It's $15,000.
So that, this isn't on the agenda, but we need to talk about an interim manner.
Yes, that's what we're talking about in our executive session.
Where was I?
Mhm. Because this is, hiring him is actually professional services, if not. So we wanted to bring it here. Yes, we are. It's on the agenda, Todd.
Did you miss that?
Wait, this was. Yes, Sharon.
I saw the position has been advertised, so did you get any applications yet?
Yes, we have received 2.
Two. Okay, and I just was surprised that we were going to go this route because I was part of that process when I was on council and we hired Mark. And I thought that the interview process and so forth went well. I'm not sure why we need to spend money for someone else to do that. So I just think it's kind of a wasteful spending when we have, with all due respect, we have a human resource person, have council, and kind of, that seems to be what we're here for, so, thank you.
Yes, Frank.
I can understand you pretty good. I didn't catch what Todd had said, but I heard you say this is what we're going to talk about at the executive session. What was that?
Interim manager.
The first matter?
Interim.
No. How did we pick this, in other words, first, there is a borough manager committee, am I correct?
Yes.
And that's who?
Me, Barb, Joanne. Me, Barb, Joanne. I know, I pointed all around. I said Barb, Joanne. Yeah.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought now. Through all that. Can I ask, when is Mark's last day?
Next Wednesday.
Will you be at another meeting or not?
But to be discussed, there's a workshop next week if that's going to be canceled or what we decide to do. So this is my last regular meeting.
Well, I'll just say here, there was many times I asked questions and I always got an answer from you. Regardless, if you remember when you first came here, you moved to Lancaster and I brought that out and you didn't let me, you brought everything right out. You didn't hide anything, you just, I appreciate that about you and I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Frank.
And I want to thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, I do believe, that we were lucky last time that we had a quality caliber candidate like Mark. And I'm not sure we'll be as lucky this time, unless we have someone out there beating bushes for us and putting it to places that we're not seeing it.
So remembering, the last time we hired, we had what, five?
We had 9.
9?
I think we had 9.
I don't know if we interviewed that many.
Yes, we did. We interviewed every one of
Was
them.
it really 9?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of definite no's, a lot of sketchy maybes, a lot of unshores. Mark came in, I remember your last interview we had,
Mhm.
last minute, and that came from a referral. From somebody who had pre-vetted Mark as a good candidate. I kind of liken that to perhaps maybe a recruiting professional who knows what we're looking for, understands the position, the role, and has the connections and the network to find a good candidate. I don't know who we would have chosen if Mark didn't come with a referral.
Right.
Right? I think we made the right choice. I've hired in the past. This is something that I wouldn't be comfortable making a decision without some real professional guidance.
Yeah, we were really,
This is a big role.
we really were unsure last time we were doing this, and, you know, I believe that if we have help to get our ad to the people that would actually apply, instead of just letting it happen organically from Monster, we're going to get a better pool of candidates to pick from.
Yeah. You know, I've served on councils in the past that we went through the same process, and to be honest with you, it was kind of hit or miss. We had a couple that worked out, and we had some that were, so-so, but, you know, it would be much nicer to have, like you said, somebody who works in the field and vets these people out where you can really, you know, instead of us trying to fit it in where we can fit it in kind of thing. And we'd like, you know, we obviously, I'm hoping by having this person involved, it helps expedite the process for us a little bit too.
Right. I mean, and he has done this for municipalities before, so, I mean, the first thing he said was, okay, we're not having any more members of council coming, right? It's just you three, because I don't want to bring sunshine. I mean, that was his very first question, and I said, no, it's just us. So, I mean, he gets it, and he's like, I understand about the, you know, the whole, you have to do things at the public meetings, and so I understand the timeframes and everything, which I thought was nice.
And he's excited to do this for us.
I'll say it does, I mean, it is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money if we think about getting the right candidate.
Correct.
Versus the wrong candidate. Because it's a management position that has a lot of weight on the shoulders of whoever gets it. Mark can attest to that. And we want to carry the vision forward of improving this town and continuing the trajectory that it's been on.
I hope we get better than that.
So, yeah.
Honestly, I do too. I with everything that's going on here, to me, not that my voice carries in this decision, but I think getting the right person in here is mission critical to all that's going on here. It's an exciting time, and I think you're going to find people who are going to jump at the chance to have the opportunity to work here.
Once they know
what's going on, they hear what's happening, there's a great opportunity for somebody.
questions, comments, Frank?
I'd like to kind of understand the hiring process. We have three on the committee. Does the committee look at the applications and say this is who we're going to interview? And does all of council and the mayor participate in the interviews? Tell me how the process works.
How the process is going to work is if we hire the consultant, he will pre-screen and go through all of the things based on the criteria that we give him as to what we're looking for. And then he will do the first interviews and weed out anyone that is right off the bat is not qualified.
Okay.
And then At that point, he will involve council to say, the three of us will get with him. We could go through the next round. Once we're down to one or like two or three candidates, at that point, all of council will be involved in interviewing.
I would have thought council would have had more participation.
And he will be recording all of the interviews and interactions so that all of council can watch all of those and see all of the, the answers and so forth.
Okay.
It's very time consuming, Frank. I mean, when we did before
That's
and,
why I was asking.
yeah.
And we're at a point, we're going to meet somebody. I come across somebody today that was telling me that, I don't know if the state's getting involved with this or not, but they want to use a borough manager maybe from two municipalities to use one borough manager. That maybe they don't need that borough manager that much. But you can't even go here, you can't even start that.
No, there are municipalities that do it. And in fact, I met a borough manager at the conference that was a manager of a borough and a township at the same time. Over in York Adams County, there was one guy that has, I think, 3 municipalities.
Some of them are so small over there, but that is not.
But that's not, there's no way we can do that here.
Okay, just one other question to Mark. How did you end up picking Columbia? How did you end up doing that?
So I worked here in Lancaster County for a number of years. I started at the county, went to East Hempfield, was manager in Manheim. I know Columbia well. To me, it was an exciting opportunity to take on a community or come to a community that I believed in. I'll confess, Mayor and I go back, 20 some plus years. I had applied the first round and I was second or third in line behind when you hired Sam. That was my first time of applying here. So to me, this was not gosh, I hope I get something. This was like, really? This is exciting that I could come back to Lancaster County and get a job like this. And I mean that sincerely. It's a great community and a great place to work.
And the way we knew that we could trust him at the helm with McGinnis was because the Nook project, he was the manager when that project happened. So
Planning
he managed
director, but
the
yes,
Nook. Yeah.
I helped that one start to finish.
Mhm.
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
If you want to keep piling on, you can blame me for Centerville Road too. I did 3/4 of that one, getting that set up to be a 5-lane cross section. I'll take the blame on that one too.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion? Or do we have a problem voting on this tonight?
How many
To,
hire Scott
motion by
I'll
council,
second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl to hire Scott Fiore to act as consultant for the purpose of recruiting a borough manager. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Staff reports, comments, and announcements. Solicitor Ginsburg.
Not too much to report tonight. You will on your agenda at your first voting meeting in July on the 9th have the curb and sidewalk ordinance ready to approve. That's been advertised. The resolution opening or ordinance, setting the right of way width for Walnut Street for that project. There are some more extensive advertising deadlines that have to be met for that because it's essentially opening a street, even though that's not what we're doing, but we want to follow that So that'll probably either be at the second voting meeting in July or your first one in August. So that's in the hopper there. So, but other than that, you should have your lien report at the second voting meeting in July as well. So we're working on that now as well. So.
All right. Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Stivers.
I just want to thank council for my time here. It's been a joy to invest time and energy and effort into a community that you can see change. One of the things I know about me is that I like mowing grass because you can instantly see you're making progress. I like doing things where you see results right away, and often in this job you don't get the opportunity to do that. You talk about things, you look at things, and you plan things, and it takes years and years to come about. I had the privilege of coming in at a time where, and I'll steal the mayor's analogy, he talks about a snowball running down the hill. Snowball was already pushed, and it was already starting to roll when I got here. And I was able to just pick up that energy that was already here and drive it forward. And you see the difference. You see the difference in this community now after this time, and that snowball is still rolling, and there's still a lot of good to come. This community has a lot of promise, a lot of good in it. And I encourage you all to keep pushing that forward. One of the things you're going to see physically in this room here in the next few weeks is we're making a poster out of the comp plan, the major goals and policies of the comp plan. And I had Jessica Fieldhouse put together a really nice display poster, and I want to put it up in the room here because I want that to be the focus of when decisions are made here in this room. We remember the good work of putting that plan together and what those 5 big ideas are, and let that be the driving force to keep things going and keep things moving the way they are. Because if you look back, when I first got here, I was, of course, Chief was the only one in the building. Everyone else was gone. We were mid-COVID and trying to bring people back in. One of the things I was handed was a whole stack of all these studies and things that have been done, and saying, look at all these things. And one of the comments that was given to me early on is all the borough does is spend money on studies, but nothing's really been accomplished by that. When I took time and actually started going through them and reading them, you realize that's not true. 441 bypass was a study, a concept, a dream that became reality. The Northwest Lancaster County River Trail was started as a dream many years ago. A lot of time and study and efforts, and that came to fruition. The Trail Center, which we now call Columbia Crossings, originally built to be the trail center for that trail, was a plan, a concept. We did a micro economic development plan with ULI, and they came in, they walked around the downtown core here, and 2 or 3 of the buildings they recommended for prime for redevelopment are the hotels across the street that are now 39 units and 3 commercial spaces opened up. Chip Factory Hotel, which we hope will get back on track. So you look back over time, there's been a lot of good work done, and that good work is based on thoughtful planning and process. And I know some people get frustrated. I know Sharon's comment tonight about it takes a while to get things done. I've talked to some of you here about how long sometimes it takes to get progress and get things done. But when you get to the other side and you look backwards and you see all that's been accomplished, it's worth the journey. It's worth the effort to get to where we are. So I just want to encourage you guys, keep going. This town is on the right track. It's going the right direction. The number of people I talk to that when they find out I work in Columbia, one of their first comments is, wow, it's really changed. That's a good thing. Do we still have issues? Do we still have some things? Forever. You never reach the point where you're done. You never get to the point where you're like, oh, wow, we can now rest. We've accomplished everything we ever want to do. No, you set new goals and you start aiming at those. And God bless you guys when the bridge starts happening. Otherwise, that's going to be a fun one. But anyway, thank you.
No,
I appreciate it.
It's not going to be fun.
It's not going to be fun.
It's going to suck. All right. boards, commissions, and committees. Upcoming meeting, the zoning hearing board has a meeting that's been advertised for June 26th, which is tomorrow. In your packet, there are planning commission meetings from April, Barb from May, civil service from May, planning commission from May, and the planning commission workshop from May, and shade tree from April. Lots of approved minutes. Borough council comments, councilperson Regard.
Mark, it's been a pleasure. Been an inspiration, good friend, great borough manager. I'm going to miss you. Godspeed. And text my up.
Thanks.
Did you guys notice that on the planning commission, that property 170 South Fifth Street was designated as blighted property?
Yeah, it's going through the big property reinvestment board blight process now.
And so this man, he wasn't the owner?
Not when it was blighted, no.
Okay, but he can still, okay, all right. And thank you, Mark, for everything.
This weekend is Sports Friday, start of Riverfest. Thank you, Mark.
All right, man, a few words. Joanne?
Nothing to add other than, Mark, thank you for everything you've done for us. It's just a short time I've been in council, but also the whole time you've been here, and I wish you well in your future endeavors. So be successful.
Yep.
Councilperson Stoll.
It's
What
not
did
a,
you say?
it's not a dead horse, so I'm not gonna, no, I just wanted to hop on the bandwagon, like to say, thanks, Mark. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I said it before, but just coming into council and learning the ropes of local government, you've done your job in such a way that makes it easy for a council to work with. And so, yeah, much appreciated. Thank you.
First, I would like to just publicly say congratulations to Don and Becky Murphy for being presented with the 2024 Historic Preservation Trust Award for Neighborhood Preservation for the project at 315 Locust Street. That was at the end of last week, I believe, they received that. Saw that on LinkedIn, thought that was pretty cool. And just echo everyone, Mark, ditto what they all said. I came into this position, and in the first 6 months, we had Eric, we had 4 borough managers, a pandemic, social unrest, and a whole lot of other things going on. And I came in and was like, Mark, you're gonna have to help me. And it seemed like every week I was going, Mark, I don't have the leadership for this. Yes, you do, Heather, you'll get through. And you got me through this. And gave me the confidence to keep pushing through. So thank you. And then big shoes to fill, but we'll get there. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Announcement of next meeting. It has on here that we're going to have a workshop next week. I do not believe we need that workshop. We don't have anything on the agenda to do it, but we will be holding an executive session at 6 p.m. on July 2nd. And then the next regular Borough Council meeting will be at 7 p.m. on July 9th. This evening, we will be adjourning to executive session to discuss a personnel matter. But I have a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Price to adjourn at 9:06 p.m. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. We got checks to sign.
Heather, tell me who motioned and seconded the adjournment.
Eric
Kaufman, Price.
Thank you.
I don't know. Next time, I guess, with the right, you stuff.
No, no, that's good. I'm gonna do that with.
Very
good, gentlemen.
Yes. Yeah, and what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna meet with Scott that night. Get him our priorities and all that stuff.
Dry.
Dry?
I-
Um,
Yeah, now that you mention it, my